Hello, everyone. This is Emily, manager of RAL Payroll. And this video is going to go over the reports menu within our CyberPay Phoenix online website. We will be covering in the first section how to get your per payroll reports and then how to read them along with check stubs for your employees. And then we will move on to utilizing the built-in section of the reports menu and kind of how to use those. And then the final portion of this video will cover utilizing the custom report writer. So when you log on to your payroll Phoenix website, you're going to go to this reports menu right here. And when you click reports, you'll notice that it lists all of the different menus in reports, but in the main body of your website, you'll notice that there are 4 distinct sections that open automatically for you. And what those are the provider uploaded reports. These are going to be your company reports, check registers, summary reports that are going to show you tax deposits, departmental reports, whatever you might have in your report grouping. This is going to be in the provider uploads area. Print payroll preview reports are going to be copies of some of your most recent submitted payrolls through our online website, whether or not it was approved or rejected, and then a copy of what was submitted. Print checks is where you're going to find the check stubs for your employees, as well as if there are any agency checks that printed with your payroll. And then the last section on the main body is going to be the tax forms. These are going to be your actual quarter filings that we've done for you, as well as maybe your year-end filings. You should be able to find copies of W-2s for your employees here as well. You can find individual check stubs and individual W-2s in the employees menu. If you would prefer to go there, you would go into each employee and then you would find pay history for your check stubs and tax forms for your employees' W-2s, but they are also within here. So what I'm going to do is show you your payroll reports they're going to print with each payroll. And so you'll notice that it shows you your check dates. It should put the most current check date on top. That's not necessarily always the case if you have a duplicate or multiple runs for the same check date. You may want to come over here and notice the published date over here. Because sometimes if it's the same check date, for some reason it puts the more current one underneath. But usually, as long as you're not having multiple pay period or paychecks for the same day, you should always see your most current one on the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to select on the name of the open reports. When I hover my mouse over it, you'll notice that it turns blue. So once I select that, I'm going to open them. And then I should come to all of the different reports that are housed within here. I have my cover letter, which goes over things that we think as a payroll company you should know. And then it goes on to the payroll summary report, direct deposit reports, check registers. So we'll just go through those real quick. So a check register report is pretty self-explanatory. You can have a check register report that will show things for you based off of department, or you can just simply have it in alphabetical order with no departmentalization. But you're going to notice that it's going to show you the name of your employee here, and then it will list the different, the pay that they received, the total they got, and then it shows you a year to date in this column right here. And then we move on to the taxes. These are the employee taxes that were withheld from the check, along with the year to date. Deductions, things like 401ks, garnishments, purchases, draws, they're going to show the current amount withheld from the check here, along with the year to date so far. And then this section here pertains to the employer tax. So if you were wanting to see what each person's tax totals were for you as the employer that you're paying in addition to their gross wage, that's this section right here. And so it'll show you, it'll show you the grand total of that person's check that you paid, and then it shows you the year to date here. And then we would move on to benefits. These would be memo items, things like an employer contribution to a 401k or a health insurance paid on the behalf of the employee by the employer. You can see that you have the current amount and then the year to date. And then some of this section over here is going to show what their taxation is. In some cases, you may have an accrual, like this one here. There's a sick accrual right here. And then, you know, it shows you what they accrued on the payroll, if there was anything they accrued, and then what they used. On the same line as the person's name, you should be able to see what their net paycheck is. So it's in two places, right here, net, as well as over here. And then here's the check number that we printed or utilized. That may or may not be relevant to you, but if it was a direct deposit, it's usually a much larger number like this one here. If it's a check number that we generated, it's usually going to be a much smaller number. But the check numbers are customizable for every company. If we usually start every new company at 500, but if that's not the number you'd like, you just let us know and we can make your check numbers pretty much whatever you want them to be. So if we scroll through, we'll notice that a departmental report will give us totals by the department, but then at the bottom of the page is a grand total for the entire company as well. This right here. So if I look to the payroll summary report. In this particular case, it's 2 pages. What this payroll summary report is going to do, and this is probably one of what we consider to be one of the most important reports that we provide to our clients on a per payroll basis. Because what this report does is it shows you what taxes are generating for this payroll. So if I scroll down to the bottom of the page, if it's one page, or in this case, it's towards the top of my second page, I am looking for the section on the payroll summary report called tax deposit liability. And this is very important because if we're scheduling tax payments for you, this is all that you're going to receive that tells you that that tax is being withdrawn from your account. We will show you the amount that's being deducted and then the due date associated with it. Now you'll notice that in some cases there are earlier due dates and in some cases there are much later due dates. So if you have a quarter report or a quarterly tax that's not due until the end of the quarter, then usually what will happen is that tax will accumulate through the course of the quarter and then be withdrawn from your account by the last, not usually last business day, but usually towards the end of the following month after the quarter closes. So for example, you would see taxes withdrawn by the end of April. If this was a first quarter, the last payroll of the first quarter, it would show you the taxes that are due for the following month from January, February, and March. So you'll see it shows you the dollar amount here in this column here, along with a grand total of just the tax. But another thing to pay attention to is the way that we're sending tax payments for you. Now, in some cases, we don't send your tax payments. There may be that it's a check. If there's a check, then what would happen is we would most likely send that check to you, or it could be that we're publishing it to the online portal for you, and you would be responsible for finding that check and printing your own check to go along with it to send to the agency. It's most common that we are sending tax payments on behalf of our clients. And what you'll notice is that it shows right here, anything that has to do with a state credit or EFTPS batch, those are the payments that are being sent on your behalf. So if you see these as the method for the taxes, then you'll know that this is something that's being scheduled for you. If it says check or some other method, then it's most likely your responsibility to send that tax. We may provide you with an agency check for it, but it's still up to you to sign and mail. So this is just going to display for you just this one payroll. Now, if this was the last payroll of the quarter, what would happen is there would be another report that would pop up, and I'll show you an example of that. And what that report will do is give you the grand total. Most often you'll have one tax that will probably be due right around the day of your payroll. In some cases, some of our clients don't see that clear until the 15th of the following month if they're only paying once a month. And you'll see the amount here, and then the state amount is usually down lower. Those are the ones that would probably clear your account relatively soon after each payroll. They will clear separately. Each time a state withdrawal clears your account, it will be separate from the federal. And the two different types of federal would be separate as well. So you would see a withdrawal once a quarter for the 940, and then you would see the 941 clearing probably with each payroll. When it comes time for your quarter withdrawal to be done, we will take each different type of state that we're doing, and that's based off of quarterly frequency. And it would just, you most often will clear everything as one lump sum. Very rarely does it clear as each individual tax, but we have had clients request that. So if I open up the last payroll of the quarter, here's an example. This one was for the end of September. If I open up that report, what I'll notice is that I want to come to this quarterly tax deposit alert. And what it'll say is that these taxes that are reported on this report for me are a combination of what had been reported each payroll on the summary reports. This is not going to be in addition to. So if y'all notice, I'll come to this report. What this will do is it will give me the grand total of each of the different types of taxes that calculated throughout the quarter. And it will separate them for me based off of each type. So as I previously mentioned, the federal will clear as its own withdrawal. So you will need to account for the federal 940. And then each of the state payments, if they are all sent electronically for you, would clear your account as a combination. So you would have to add this dollar amount here, this dollar amount here, here, and here. And what that would do is give you a grand total of what you would want to put into your account to show as clearing. Now, we don't tell people what's the best method for accounting for taxes. It's just totally up to your discretion. We just simply report for you what's clearing, what is supposed to clear based off of the due date. We will show you what it is each payroll, but then we go back and give you a combination report like this. Some of our clients like to account for the amounts based off of their per payroll summary in their ledger, but they just like to put it in there and put it as a very future due date. And then what they do is they use this report here to just basically go back and retotal and make sure that all of the different separate entries they put in match what the total is. Other people don't want to use the amounts from the per payroll summaries. They want to ignore it and only put the ones that are clearing right away. And then they want to just grab this report when it prints with the last payroll of the quarter, and that way they can just put it in at one time. Totally up to you, but you just want to be sure that you're paying attention to this because of timing. We've had a lot of people who have had it come as a surprise to them that they thought that the amounts coming were just happening on a per payroll basis, and then surprise, there was the ones that cleared at the end of the quarter. This report is also kind of a nice report because it will total for you what was the grand total of the employee taxes versus the employer taxes. Some people find that relevant, but it's up to you. So lots of other reports that go along with the per payroll reports. There's, a deduction report, a timesheet should you need it. And then a lot of times we provide you with a recap of everything that happened for the month. And then depending upon the situation, you might have a recap that's for the quarter. So like here's a summary report that provides to you the grand total of wages paid by employee, by type for each quarter. So a lot of reports that are built, provided to you within the provider uploads and the built-ins. But I'll move along now to the print check. It's pretty self-explanatory, but what you'll want to do is look here and you'll notice that it's going to categorize them by type. So as I can see, I have two different check stubs for the 2/28 check date, a live check as well as an agency check. Now, as I mentioned, if we are printing agency checks for you and getting you some sort of packet, then you probably wouldn't need to worry about these. But if we do not send you anything, if you are paperless internet only, then it would be up to you to come into these agency checks and find the ones that are needing to be sent and paid. And if it says direct deposit on it, like this one here for an Oregon Child Support, then we are doing that one electronically for you. You do not need to send this. But if it looks like this, where it's an actual check and it has the agency of who it's to, then you would either need to make sure you're receiving a check from us that you can sign and mail, or you would need to write your check and send it to the agency based off of this dollar amount. So I'm going to go ahead and close and then cancel, and then I'm going to print my employee's checks. So once again, I'm going to hit this print check right here. And I've had people save it. You can, but also you can just simply open the PDF right here. So I'm going to click on that. And then in my case, because I'm using Chrome, it puts it here. Some people, your web browser may just pull it up completely. But you'll notice that here is an example of everybody's check stubs. I apologize, I grabbed the wrong one again. That was the agencies. Let me find a live check here. So here's an example of the check that is made payable to my employee. This is a check, and so if you want to request check stock from us, we sell a ream of 25 for $25, a ream of 500. You can put, some clients just simply take that blank paper and put it in their printer, and then they can print their own checks. If that's not what you want, then you could print this out and use it as a stub, and then write your own check. But you would see here that this is a check that's made for John Doe, and then you would see the dollar amount of what you need to write the check for up here in the amount section up there. It does, of course, give you the stub information down below. An example of a direct deposit would look like this. It would say direct deposit here. This is not a check. So if your company utilizes direct deposit, then you obviously wouldn't want to write a check for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and close out of the tab and then cancel so that it can take me back to the menu. And then, as I mentioned down below, here is where you will find your quarter returns. Things like, usually there's one set, but like, for example, here's a copy of the 941, and this return is filed electronically for you. I don't think we really don't have anybody who still files their own 941s. They're pretty much, or their own quarter returns, but there are some rare cases where some of the state returns we may send you that needs to be signed and mailed, and potentially a payment check. But we will also publish a copy of all of the different returns that we do for you down in this section here, as well as the copies of W-2s for your employees. So what I'm going to do is move along now to utilizing the built-in menu. So when you're on the reports menu, you're going to select built-in right here. And what that will do is it will give you a large menu of several different reports that we do for you on a per payroll basis, but then some of them that maybe you've never even seen before. But these reports are ones where you can pick and customize by date range, as well as sometimes even an employee. So just as my example in this case, I'm going to scroll down to one of the most commonly used reports, which is called an employee summary. And that's going to be in the employee section here, and it's employee summary. And one of the things that's nice about this report is that it will give you a grand total of earnings by type for whatever time period you want. So right now, what'll happen is it'll show you that it's on a predefined range. And what you would say is what is it that you're needing? Is it all of the current year, all of the previous year? I've never seen anyone ever use next, but you would say previous, and then when you run this report, it would give you your previous year's information. But maybe you don't need it for an entire year. Maybe you're trying to run off of a fiscal year, or your workman's comp has a weird date range. So if that's the case, you would put your radio button here under custom range. And then when you find custom range, you can select by pay run, but that kind of defeats the purpose. You would just simply type in or use the calendar to find the date range that you're looking for. So for example, maybe I need to run this report from September 1st of last year until February of this year. Then I would enter in the date range here and select run, and then it would give me the data based off of that time period. You can export several of these reports to PDF or export some of them to Excel. Now, if I export it to PDF, it's obviously a pretty nicely laid out report, but some of them export to Excel very nicely, and some of them don't. So you would just kind of have to just poke around with them and play with them a little bit. Here is an example of that report in an Excel format. So as you can see, it may not be the most conducive to an Excel, but some of them export to Excel very nicely. You can also filter your reports by specific criteria. So say, for example, you'd like to filter this report for just a specific employee. Maybe you want to filter it by a department or a classification or a job title. Say, for example, you'd like to find just the wage earned in one of your specific departments. So you would click that as your filter, and then you would get this option down here for you to say what department you're looking for. So I want to find just the hours or the time worked for that pay period for my department 200. And then when I run that, then what it will do is it will show me just those people that have a home department of 200. Now, if you're looking for something that's more for allocation, whereas like the same employee is going from department to department and you want a report that does that, then this report would not be the one for you, but you would want to look for more of a report that does things based off of allocated rather than home. So that's pretty much the built-ins. As I mentioned, you have a lot at your fingertips. Now, if you don't find anything in here that you're looking for, you're welcome to reach out to us and let us know that you're looking for a report that you're not able to find in here. But we're going to move along now to a custom report. The custom report writer is quite powerful and has a lot of functionality, but it can be very cumbersome to work with. You kind of have to know what it is that the information that you're searching for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select custom report here, and then I'm going to select new report. And it has to do with what is the data that you're searching for. Are you searching for a report that you can find based off of your company's information, your employees setup, or are you looking for something that's going to give you wages based off of payroll? So if I'm trying to find a report that, say for example, I want to get my, like a list of all my different employees and names and addresses and all of that, then I would put my radial button here to employee. And then I'm going to say next. And then I come to building the report. So you have to say what you want each report to have. And you'll notice that you have the option on your base fields that'll say things like first name, last name, phone number, hire date. So you would want to build your criteria based off of what you're looking for. So maybe I want to find my employee's ID, but then I also want to have maybe their full name. So you'd have to determine if you're wanting to, this will put this into Excel for you. So maybe the full name isn't right. Maybe you want the first name, and then you'd want to scroll and find their last name. And then maybe I'm looking for something that'll show me their hire date, maybe their last raise date. And then, so these are the attributes that you can select from within the base fields. And then you have these things here, a pay type. So once you select this, this will show you all of the different pay categories that you have within your report. So maybe I'm looking for all of the different types of vacation pay or sick pay that occurred during the time period. And then if I want any deductions. Now, in some of these cases, you may not need the pay code fields or the deduction fields if you're searching for just specific things to your employees. Over here, these are the pay type attributes. Some of the fields over here will not be available to you until you select something from over here. So as I can see, this area over here is grayed out for the deduction attributes because I haven't selected anything over here in the deduction section. So if I was to say I want to find everything with dental insurance, then I will know over here I can filter that criteria down a little bit. Maybe I want to search for the dental insurance based off of whether or not it's active or not active. Max limits, there's a lot to do with all these different things that you're building your reports for. But what I'm going to do is at this point say next, because as I think, as you can see, you just have to sort of build the report based off of what you're looking to have. So once I say next, I have to name this report. So I'm just going to name this as, say, for example, a sample wage report. And then I do not put anything in the report group name. I just simply save it. I apologize. You do have to have something in there. So you can just call this the same as what you've done here. You just name this report, but you put them as the exact same thing. And then when you save it, you'll notice it'll put this report down here for you. in the reports that you've created. So what I will have to do in order to generate this report is to click on it, and then what it'll do is it'll come down here and allow me to select the names of who. Now I can simply say select all if I want on all of this. Now, some of the information you won't be able to put a date range in. Like, for example, this is an employee report. So all I'm trying to do is find the criteria of what I asked for based off of this listing. In some of them, you would look for, if you like, for example, the pay report, you may be looking for something that's based off of a date range. The employee report information is just going to show you what's in your employees. So you may not have the ability to select a date range. It just kind of depends on if that's what you've built your report to do. So as I can see, I can now export this to Excel. And because it's a custom report, it's going to export very nicely to an Excel format. I can see all of my different column headers and the information that was put in, and that way I can sort and filter even further by playing around there. Or I can just simply run it as a PDF, and then it would look like this. So that concludes our report tutorial. Thank you everybody for joining.